And let's begin with what's happened in the Supreme Court. The oxygen crisis in the national capital echoing in the top court. And the Supreme Court has made it very clear that the onus is on the centre to ensure that adequate oxygen is supplied in the national capital. So the Supreme Court has said that 700 metric tons of oxygen that's required in Delhi must be provided by the central government. The SC made it clear that the centre must supply the 700 metric tons of oxygen to the national capital by any means possible. In fact, not just that, the Supreme Court said that the centre must submit a plan, a detailed plan on how it will provide this oxygen to Delhi by 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. Now, in some reprieve, however, for the centre, the Supreme Court has stayed the show cause notice for contempt that was in fact put out by the Delhi High Court yesterday. So while there's some respite that there is no show cause notice for contempt, there are also very clear observations from the Supreme Court that say that the centre must address the oxygen crisis. Nalini Sharma is joining us live from Delhi with more details on this. So Nalini, while the centre will be happy that, this show cause notice for contempt has now been stayed by the Supreme Court, the Apex Court has made it very, very clear that the centre is responsible for ensuring adequate supply of oxygen in the national capital.
Well, Akshita, as things stand today, the Supreme Court's looking at more of a national perspective of things, which is why it's also taking into account how much oxygen is needed by other states. And because they're looking at things on a pan-India level is why there has been some respite for the centre, where they've said that issuing contempt notices is not going to make oxygen available on the ground, which is why the centre needs to focus all its energy on trying to ensure that the 700 metric tons of oxygen, as has been ordered by the Supreme Court as well as the Delhi High Court in multiple orders, is supplied to the Delhi government on a daily basis. In addition to that, they've also asked for a detailed plan on as to how the centre actually plans to do so. Now, the centre in principle has disagreed with the Delhi government on the number, on the quantity of 700 metric tons itself. The Solicitor General has said that Delhi can do with only 500 metric tons of oxygen and actually does not require 700. But the Supreme Court very categorically refused to go back on their order because their order dated 2nd May clearly said that the centre has to supply 700 metric tons of oxygen. So they've refused to go back on it. They've said that there's an order already in place, plus the projected demand of Delhi is also 700 metric tons. So the complete responsibility and the onus for the oxygen as well as the oxygen tanker has now been put on the central government.
All right, and 10:30 tomorrow, the Supreme Court has said that the centre must submit a detailed plan on what it intends to do to address this oxygen shortage in Delhi. Nalini, thank you for joining me with those details. But focusing on this issue of the oxygen crisis in Delhi, several hospitals have been struggling for the last few weeks to get you, in fact, those details. Let's cut across now to the Health Ministry briefing. Mr. Love Agrawal